What's going on, everyone? Now, today I'm going to be talking to you about a brand new framework that I have just put together that is going to help you do cold email better. It's called the 7 Eyes of Why They Reply. And it's influenced very heavily by Robert Cialdini's principles of influence. He has 7 principles of influence, which we'll go after. He used to have 6, but he added a 7th. Now, before I get into this, I want to say that I'm only going to talk about the atomic unit here, an actual email. And there's so much that goes into sending this email, but this is the smallest possible unit that I can explain the system with. So, as I go through each piece, I'm going to give you a little bit of context about how I think about each piece of this email. And hopefully, this framework will give you a different way to think about how you do cold email. And more specifically, that you don't have to think about cold email as this one-off thing. You also don't have to think about it as a choice between either automation with bad messaging at scale or individual SDRs sending messaging that you have no insight into, that you can't improve, that you have no way to learn from, to systematically steal the things that are working best from the best SDR and easily replicate them. So this is a way to think about how do we get the value at scale, but also send an email that's as good as the founder might send. So let's dive in. All right, the 7 Eyes of Why They Reply. So let's talk about Cialdini's principles first. There are 7 principles here. Reciprocity is a good one that I use all the time, which is that people feel obliged to provide a favor back to someone that has provided a favor to you. This is why you go to Costco and they give you samples, right? Because you are more likely to buy that thing now that you have accepted a free sample. So there's a lot of things that folks almost never do in cold email that you can use reciprocity. Almost all of the cold emails I send for my agency and my product involve reciprocity. I send something actionable that someone can use for free. Commitment and consistency. This is very important, but very hard to do at scale with cold email. And that's a principle that says that humans have a deep need to be consistent, to do the things that they have done in the past. So for me, for example, if you were sending me a cold email, you would say, hey, Jordan, I know that in the past you have helped people find jobs. Will you help me find a job? I'm much more likely to reply to that message because it's consistent with my past behavior. Now, how you find this in the world is a challenge. I have posted previously about how to search for content on LinkedIn. So you can look for things like, I will help people like blah, blah, blah. This is a real challenge to do. But if you can find something that they've done in the past, then you can use this in your cold email. Social proof. Everyone's super familiar with this. This is case studies, right? And ideally, you want the social proof to be as relevant as possible. But basically, if other people have done it, you're more likely to do it. Pretty simple. Scarcity. So why is this an exploding offer? How come I can't buy unlimited amounts of this? I'm an agency. There's only so many customers that I can handle. And I change my price frequently, actually. And so I can say with all truth, hey, I'm happy to do this for you, but things may change in a month. So if you don't make a decision now, your option to buy at this price may change. Authority. So interestingly enough, this is almost all of what I use LinkedIn for, is just to build authority. That people see me, they watch my stuff, some people like my stuff, and that gives me authority to speak on cold email. And so why do you know? Why should I trust you to deliver this message? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Liking. Are you fun? Can you write a message that's enjoyable to read? And this is the thing that I struggle with the most when I'm working for clients, is that I can bring out my personality in messages in these videos, but how do you do this at scale in an email? And so I think there are fun things you can experiment with. I'm not great at this, to be honest, at scale here. I do this on LinkedIn. That's how I use the liking principle. But I think that there is possibility to use this inside of cold email if you add a little pizzazz to your message. And then unity. This is, did I spell unity right? This is Robert Cialdini's new principle, which is basically that we share something in common. We are in the same roof. And I'll talk about unity in the framework. So the 7I email framework. So the first is intrigue, and this is the subject line. You want to create intrigue in your subject line. You want to bait but not switch. So let's talk about bad. Bad. Your dog's in the hospital. I swear to God, if you send a message that has a subject line, your dog's in the hospital, the next message needs to be, I'm Dr. Crawford and I've got good news about your dog. Or, actually, that's the only thing you should call them if their dog's in the hospital. But if you are selling a product that helps with a dog's health, you could say Woofie's Health, right? That is a bait, but you're not switching. I'm not talking about your dog. I'm not saying that your dog's health is in danger, but it's good enough to be like, it might question in the reader's mind, is this about my dog? Is the health? And as long as the next piece of the message is about, we sell dog treats or something, I don't know. But that's an example of a bait, but not a switch. Investigation. So there's a handful of things you can do here. This can play on Cialdini's principle of unity or commitment and consistency. So this is where most of your time in any cold email system should be spent. In my agency, 90% of the time is spent at this investigation stage. And this is just really great list building. And so for unity, for example, you might look at, I ran a play recently that looked at members of Chief, which is a organization of sort of strong, powerful women that help promote other women. So because I built a list about these are people that believe this, that believe that women should be promoted, that we need to close the glass, shatter the glass ceiling. I can talk about unity. We are part of this same group. I wouldn't be a part of that group, but that's an example of unity or commitment or consistency. In the past, you have belonged to an organization that believed this thing. Will you be consistent with your past beliefs and support this thing, which is very similar? And the key insight here is that the targeting is the message. So if this is like a really good litmus test to use to know if your cold email is full of shit. And that is, if you just described your query, if you said, hey, Jordan, I'm sending you a message because you're a VP of marketing at Spotify. Boring, terrible. If instead you send a message that's like, hey, Jordan, I looked at your website. It seems that you don't have a support tool. You are the first support hire. And in your job description, it mentions that you have to select a support tool. I was wondering how that's coming. That is a targeting message that is about how I targeted, and the targeting implies the message. And 90% of your time should be spent here. And ideally, you can speak to consistency. So basically, what makes folks like to do something they've already done. In the past, I've even explored looking at software purchases by start date. So looking at decision makers and their start dates. Interestingly enough, you can determine timing pretty easily here by looking at job descriptions. You'll be the first support. You'll be our first recruiter. So if you are talking about commitment and consistency, really what you want to do are find the groups that people believe in, that they are a part of. And we'll talk a little bit later about other ways that you might do this. Investors are a good way to show unity. Other startups in the cohort are a good way to show unity. I'm on deck, so I can look at folks that are on deck, past employers. Another way to do this is to look at early people at fast-growing startups. So if, let's say Stripe started in 2011, I don't remember the exact start date, but if you got all of the first 100 employees at Stripe and one of them was your customer, the likelihood that those 100 have a good relationship is probably pretty high. So you can talk about that in your message. So, and really this is, what do you know about them? So how do you know that they need your product or service? And the thing is that this is usually a string of observations leading up to the next piece, the insight, right? And this is something I see people don't ever do. And really what you want to talk about here is why you're about to zig and instead you should zag. and here's all of the evidence. All of my customers zigged just like you're zigging, and instead, when they used me, they zagged. So ideally, you're looking for tension. So the insight is what they think is basically different from what you think they might be doing. So this is your unique selling proposition, and it showcases, quantifies, or brings into question the path they're about to take and how dangerous that path is. So in my case, it's like, hey, look, I know that you're hiring 15 SDRs, and it looks like 15 of those SDRs have to build their own list. And I'm just going to talk about how hard that is to build a list, how much time is spent, let alone messaging, let alone all of the other observations that I provided above. And my insight is that actually for less than the cost of a single hire, you can make all of your SDRs much more productive by outsourcing the outbound piece. So you really need to have a unique insight. And the thing is that you should test your unique insight against your competitors. If I could read just this sentence, just this observation insight combination, will I come to the conclusion that there is only one company that could send this message? Or do you sound like every other company in your niche? And so buyers have a really aggressive bend towards what they've already heard before. So they're going to put you in a bucket. You're like everyone else that's contacted me. So the reply bar is really high here. And if you don't have a unique insight, just stop watching this video now and go develop one. Intro, authority. Why are you the leading person on this topic? As I said, your buyers have been pitched by every other company. And you can think about a sentence like, unlike companies that do X, we do Y. And you might think about other things. I used to work at Lyft. I used to work at Google. We've raised from people like A, B, C, and D. We've grown X% month over month. Our customers see. And the best version of this really is we've helped X number of customers do this, and we've been doing this for this amount of time. Why are you the world's leading expert on what you do? And so I could talk about, in my case, about how many cold emails I've sent, what the reply rate is, how many deals have been closed as a result of my systems. I can talk about all of the bad shit that other people do with cold email and how there's not really much differentiation. But why are you the world's leading expert? And what's a message they have never heard before? This is really important. So how can you deliver a message that does not sound like every other message they have received? And that is surprisingly a high bar. They're getting pitched all the time. If you're selling into tech, B2B tech, they're getting pitched all the time. Now, you might be in a market where you're selling used tractors to construction companies, and there just aren't folks that do that. You have a unique advantage here by being first to the goal. But as the market saturates, other people do this same thing, and your message needs to be more and more unique. And that means you have to describe yourself in a way that only you would know. What is the insight that you have, the authority that you have, that makes you specifically unique and cannot apply to your competitors? Social proof. This is pretty simple. People do this actually pretty well. We are trusted ideally by companies that you trust. Now I'm going to talk about a data source here, which is weird in this message, but there's a company called Predict Leads that is trying to scale this idea of social proof. So here is just a part of their schema. They have scanned websites and identified who are their partners, who are their vendors, who have they purchased from, what integrations do they use, who are their investors, who are their holding companies, their parent companies. And so if you can include social proof about other people in the portfolio, I'm in your portfolio too, other people that companies that I see used to work at LinkedIn, we serve LinkedIn as a customer. And really the best version of this is the smallest possible atomic unit that they are a part of and invest in. So for me, that's like a couple of WhatsApp groups that my friend Eric or Jesse host. It might be a Slack community. I tried this with Chief, which is this community of women. And so how can you find people that are connected very heavily to an atomic unit and talk about that atomic unit? And so, I ride people all the time for using like sports teams, but someone might be an incredible sports team person. And fine, if you want to talk about how you are, you work with one of their sports teams or whatever, fine. I'm not going to decry you for doing that. I wouldn't do it, but the social proof is really important, right? Who do you trust? Who do you believe? Who do you have a connection with that I also serve, that I work with, that I have a connection with? And then the last ask can be very simple, right? It's just like, are you interested? Which is, this question is basically, did I get the targeting right? You do not have a double-barreled ask here. Do not say, here's my calendar link to schedule. You are not optimizing for a closed deal. You're not optimizing for revenue. You're optimizing for a response. All you want is a response. No one in their right mind is going to say, absolutely, I have this problem, and by the way, I never want to meet with you. Slow your roll. People, if they respond, you'll be able to get a meeting. You do not need to drop a calendar link. In the 1% of time where a lead will go and click to your signature and book you, you do not need to optimize for that efficiency. And this can also be an offer to give more for free. So in my case, I'll send an email to recruiting agencies and I will say, I'm monitoring, 1.2 million companies that have 300,000 jobs. Here are the 100 companies with the most open jobs that have been listed on the market for the longest period of time. And here's the number of recruiters that they're hiring, further signaling that they need some help, right? That's a message where I'm actually giving something away for free, right? We talked about the reciprocity. I'm providing something for free that they can use now with no expectation of a closed deal, right? So anytime that you can deliver value for free, people will take the meeting, right? And for the small percentage of people that are going to take advantage of your generosity, let them. They're only going to think well of you for it. And you eventually turn off the gravy train. So you can send an email. If I had an email sequence that literally I just subscribed recruiters to the most number of open jobs that have been on the market for the longest period of time, and I sent them 10 emails, my guess is some of them are going to reply and say, how can I buy this? Some of them are going to take all 10 of those emails, but very few of them are going to unsubscribe to that if I'm providing value to their business. All right, let's talk about the last piece. An irresistible offer. So this is scarcity. So what do you have that's a ticking time bomb? So throw this in your PS line where you can say, hey, Jordan, and I have a special that I'm running right now that's like, if you close if you make a decision to work with me by December 1st, I will give you all of December for free because no one is going to read emails in December, right? So I will say to my leads, like, if you make the decision now, we're going to spend time warming up inboxes in December. We're going to spend time thinking about your targeting. We're going to build a better targeting list for you. And so I'm going to give you value. I'm going to give you that 100% for free. You'll get a month for free on the back end. But I can offer this now because it's scarcity, right? I can say, look, once that date passed, like, I can't give you a free month in January. But because we're dealing with an external force that I cannot control, which are people going to Christmas and enjoying Christmas, I can't really deliver value to you in that month, external market value. So I can give you something and I can say it's scarce because it's true. All right. Well, those are the 7 I's of why they reply, and a little bit of information about Robert Cialdini. My name is Jordan Crawford. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful. I know this is, you don't have to be here. You could be anywhere on your Sunday. And thanks. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment, connect with me. And if you send me a reasonably personalized message about why you're reaching out, there's a very likelihood that I'm going to respond. I don't automate any of my messages on LinkedIn. And I'm always, always so grateful to hear from people that enjoy my content. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Happy day before Cyber Monday. Bye.